The shadow outside my window caught my attention long before I understood why. Night after night, I noticed Noah, our neighbor, jogging past our house just as the sun dipped below the horizon. One evening, he waved at Ethan in a way that made my stomach twist, like they shared some private joke I wasn't meant to see. My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 42 years old, married, living in a quiet suburb with my husband Ethan, and this small gesture sparked a storm I couldn't ignore. I tried to dismiss it at first. Maybe it was just a friendly neighborly greeting. But as days turned into weeks, the same wave, the same knowing smile, began to feel deliberate. Ethan's responses were equally casual, too casual, almost rehearsed. I remembered our first conversation about Noah, how Ethan mentioned they ran into each other years ago, but I had always assumed it was harmless. Yet, a unease settled in like a shadow in my chest. I started noticing subtle things. Little hints in Ethan's phone conversations, moments where he avoided my gaze, and the slight stiffening when Noah was around. My trust wavered, replaced by a creeping suspicion I couldn't shake. Was my husband hiding something? Or worse, was this neighbor more than just a jogging companion? By the end of that week, I found myself watching from the kitchen window, heart hammering, waiting for a glimpse of a secret that had been there all along. That was when I realized something was terribly wrong, and I was standing on the edge of a discovery that would change everything. The next morning, I tried to act normal, but every detail of our home felt different. Breakfast was quiet, Noah was playing with his toys, and Ethan sipped his coffee as if nothing had changed. Yet, every time my gaze drifted toward the street, my heart jumped at the thought of Noah running past again, or worse, exchanging a secret glance with Ethan. I remembered how they laughed at a barbecue last summer, a laugh I hadn't questioned then, but now replayed in my mind like a warning I'd ignored. I found myself checking Ethan's phone accidentally. A text from Noah popped up. "See you tonight." Nothing unusual, but combined with the gestures I'd already seen, it made me uneasy. My mind spun with questions. Was this just friendship? Or something he never intended me to know? I felt the walls of my marriage tighten, a pressure I couldn't explain. Even old memories took on new meanings. I recalled when Ethan had insisted Noah borrow our tools for just a few days, but somehow they were never returned. Little details I'd laughed off before now seemed like signs. I felt betrayed, but I couldn't confront Ethan without proof. The anxiety gnawed at me, a constant whisper. "Look closer. There's more here than you realize." By the end of the day, the unease had settled into fear. The quiet suburban streets no longer felt safe. Every shadow, every wave from a neighbor, carried weight. That night, as I lay in bed, I whispered to myself, "I need to know the truth, no matter how painful it is." The following week, subtle signs kept piling up. Ethan started leaving the house more often in the evenings, sometimes claiming work calls, sometimes just a walk. But each time, the same familiar figure appeared on the street, Noah, waving casually, smiling like they shared a secret I wasn't part of. I tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but my intuition refused to let go. I remembered a conversation from months ago, when Ethan mentioned an old friend from college, someone he hadn't spoken about in years. I had asked casually about them, and he laughed it off. Now, seeing the way he greeted Noah, a strange familiarity in their gestures, I began to piece things together. Something was being hidden from me, something personal between them that wasn't innocent. I started watching more closely. I noticed small patterns. The way Ethan's messages subtly disappeared from my phone notifications, how Noah always seemed to know when Ethan would be home. The casual neighborly interactions felt rehearsed, loaded with unspoken understanding. My chest tightened with worry and disbelief. How could I have ignored it for so long? The tension in our home escalated. Even during dinner, Ethan's eyes darted toward the window, as if expecting someone, as if waiting for a signal. I caught myself checking the blinds more than usual, my heart racing with every shadow passing by. By the weekend, the sense of unease had grown into obsession. I needed to know the truth, even if it shattered everything I believed about my husband. By Monday, I couldn't ignore the uneasy feeling anymore. I started keeping track of Ethan's comings and goings, noting the times and the subtle changes in his demeanor. The more I observed, the clearer the pattern became. Nowhere seemed to appear exactly when Ethan was out, and their interactions had a rhythm that felt private, orchestrated. That evening, I decided to check my husband's old messages on the shared tablet. I knew I was crossing a line, but the gnawing suspicion wouldn't let me rest. I scrolled carefully, pretending to look for something mundane, and then I saw it, a brief exchange with Noah that was cryptic, full of inside jokes I didn't understand. My hands shook. The cryptic laughter, the subtle familiarity, everything pointed to a hidden connection I wasn't supposed to know about. I confronted Ethan casually at dinner. "You've been spending a lot of time with Noah lately," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. He laughed, brushing it off. "He's just a friendly neighbor. Don't overthink it." But the way he avoided my eyes told me that my intuition was right. I realized I was dealing with something more complex, something he had hidden for years, something that could shake the foundation of our marriage. The night ended with me lying awake, thinking about every casual comment Ethan had made over the months. Every word, every gesture suddenly seemed suspicious. I knew I had to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. This was no longer just a matter of curiosity, it was a fight for clarity, trust, and the security of our family. The next morning, I decided to be more deliberate. I started taking notes on Ethan's subtle reactions whenever Noah was mentioned. I noticed how Ethan's tone changed slightly, just enough that only someone paying close attention would notice. My stomach twisted every time they passed in the hallway. The familiarity in their smiles was undeniable. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I began searching for tangible evidence, photos, texts, anything that could confirm the connection. That afternoon, I borrowed Ethan's laptop under the pretense of checking an email. Hidden in plain sight, I found a series of messages exchanged with Noah that were clearly personal, cryptic, and oddly affectionate. My hands trembled as I scrolled. The words, the timing, the inside jokes, it all pointed to a bond far deeper than mere neighborly friendship. That night, I tried confronting Ethan indirectly. "You seem really close with Noah," I said lightly, trying to read his reaction. He smiled, shrugged, and replied, "He's just a kid, Rachel. Stop reading too much into it." But I could feel the tension under his calm exterior. Something was wrong. My heart pounded as I realized that whatever was happening had been going on longer than I could have imagined. I needed answers, and I was no longer willing to wait. Days turned into a tense blur. I watched Ethan's every movement, cataloging each glance toward Noah's house, each hidden smile, every small excuse to step outside. I started noticing patterns, times when Noah's window lights flickered on just as Ethan left for work, times when he claimed to run errands but returned unusually late. My mind raced, imagining scenarios I didn't want to confront but couldn't ignore. I began keeping a small journal, detailing dates, times, and conversations, trying to create a record that made sense. One evening, I saw Ethan standing at the edge of our driveway, phone pressed to his ear, his voice low. I couldn't hear the words, but the tone, the way he laughed, whispered, and then paused when he noticed me watching, sent a shiver down my spine. Something private, secretive, and deliberate was happening right under my nose. I confronted him again, more directly this time. "Ethan, who were you talking to just now?" His smile was polite but tight. "Just a colleague," he said, avoiding my gaze. I could feel my heart sink. That wasn't the truth. The realization hit me. Whatever he was hiding, it involved more than just casual friendship. I needed to find undeniable proof, something that would stop him from lying anymore. The next week was a careful dance of observation and stealth. I installed a small security camera near our driveway under the guise of neighborhood safety. Each night, I replayed footage, scrutinizing every detail: Ethan's gestures, the direction of his gaze, subtle hand movements. One night, my heart jumped as I saw him meet Noah's neighbor, the man who had always jogged past our house. They exchanged something quickly, too quickly for casual conversation, and Ethan's smile was familiar, almost conspiratorial. I confronted Ethan again, my voice trembling. "Who is that neighbor really? Why are you meeting him secretly?" He laughed nervously, brushing it off. "It's nothing, Rachel. Just some old friend." But the footage told a different story. My stomach churned as I realized the neighbor's presence was not innocent. They were communicating about something behind my back, and it involved more than just neighborhood gossip. The betrayal was no longer a vague suspicion. I had proof. That night, I stayed awake for hours, replaying every interaction, every passing glance. The truth was just out of reach, but the pieces were starting to fit together. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't trust my own eyes entirely, but I knew one thing: I needed answers before the whole secret unraveled completely. I couldn't sleep, the footage playing over and over in my mind. The next morning, I went through Ethan's phone while he was in the shower, hesitating with every step. Then I saw it, messages from Noah's neighbor, hidden in a folder he thought I wouldn't check. Short, cryptic texts. "Tomorrow night. Make sure it's ready." My stomach sank. These weren't casual conversations. They were plans. I confronted him in the kitchen, hands trembling. "Ethan, what is this? Who is he? Why are you hiding messages?" He froze, and for the first time, I saw fear cross his face. "Rachel, it's not what you think," he muttered. But I didn't believe him. I could feel the walls of our marriage crumble in that moment. Noah's neighbor had been more than a friendly neighbor. He was part of something Ethan had kept from me, something that threatened our family, and it was all hidden in plain sight. I felt tears burn my eyes as the realization hit me. I had trusted the wrong person for years. The betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined. And then I saw a small note in the corner of the footage, a paper Ethan had tried to hide on his desk. My hands shook as I picked it up. The note contained a meeting schedule, names, and amounts. Money, secrets, and lies. Everything I had suspected now had proof. The notes led me to more than I expected. Hidden emails, deleted photos, and even a small ledger of transactions. It all pointed to a connection Ethan and the neighbor had maintained for years. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial, secret, and carefully orchestrated. Every time I confronted him, he smiled too easily, distracted me, and made excuses. And now the evidence was undeniable. I remembered the countless evenings when Ethan said he was working late, or when he insisted Noah shouldn't play outside too long. Suddenly, it all made sense. The neighbor's nightly runs past our house, the friendly waves that masked something sinister. I felt my hands shake as I read through every message, every line confirming what I had feared. My marriage had been a Farday, and our family's safety was compromised. Then I discovered the most shocking piece. A contract, signed by both Ethan and the neighbor, detailing amounts of money exchanged and secret meetings. The betrayal wasn't casual or fleeting, it had been planned, calculated, and maintained for years. My heart raced as I realized that I had to act fast before it escalated even further. Everything I believed about trust, love, and family was shattered. The confrontation couldn't wait any longer. I slammed the folder of evidence on the kitchen table. Ethan, what is this? Explain these meetings. Explain the money. My voice trembled, but my hands were steady now. He froze, then laughed nervously. Rachel, it's not what you think. I wanted to believe him, but every lie I'd caught before screamed in my head. Noah's laughter from the living room cut through the tension, and I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. My son deserved honesty, safety, and a father he could trust. Ethan's excuses grew thinner, and the neighbor's name kept surfacing, friendly waves that hid secret deals. The betrayal was not abstract anymore, it was real, tangible, and terrifying. I felt a storm of anger and humiliation, tears blurring my vision. How could you risk everything, our family, our life, for him? I shouted. His avoidance, the smooth lies, and the smug half-smile confirmed everything. This was deliberate. In that moment, I knew there was no going back. I had to take control of my life and protect Noah. I couldn't sleep that night. Every memory of Ethan laughing with the neighbor, every casual smile I had mistaken for friendship, replayed in my mind. The emails, the hidden transactions, the subtle lies, it all led to one conclusion. He had been hiding a secret life, and I was left to pick up the pieces. The next morning, I confronted him again, calm but resolute. Noah deserves the truth, I said, holding back tears. And so do I. This ends now. He tried to manipulate, tried to gaslight, but this time, I wasn't listening. The betrayal was undeniable, etched into every document, every message. I started making plans. Calls to lawyers, gathering more proof, securing finances. I needed to protect myself and my son. Ethan might have thought he was clever, but I was done being a victim. For the first time in months, I felt clarity, control, and a spark of empowerment. The storm wasn't over, but now, I was ready to face it. I woke up early, determination replacing the exhaustion that had haunted me for weeks. I packed essentials for Noah and myself, documents, and evidence I had meticulously collected. Every photo, every message, every bank statement was proof of the betrayal I had endured. I called my lawyer and scheduled a meeting. We need to discuss separation and custody, I said firmly, my voice steadier than I had imagined. Ethan didn't know I was serious until I handed him the first legal documents, the ones that clearly outlined the financial discrepancies and hidden accounts. His eyes widened, a flicker of fear finally showing where there had only been arrogance before. Next, I secured a new place for us. It wasn't just about leaving, it was about reclaiming my life and my son's safety. I changed passwords, updated contacts, and blocked access to anything that could allow Ethan to manipulate us further. Each step was empowering, a small victory, proof that I could fight back and win. For the first time, I felt control over my life again. The betrayal had left scars, but it would not define us. I was no longer the woman trapped by trust and deception. I was a mother protecting her child, a woman taking her life into her own hands. The storm wasn't over, but now, I was armed with knowledge, courage, and a plan. Months later, the dust had settled, and I could finally breathe. Noah and I were safe, living in a cozy apartment filled with laughter instead of tension. Ethan's presence had faded from our lives, and the legal settlements ensured our financial stability. I reflected on everything: the manipulation, the lies, the betrayal, and realized the pain had transformed into strength. I reconnected with friends who truly valued me, who respected the life I was rebuilding. The betrayal had taught me how to recognize red flags, how to trust my instincts, and how to set firm boundaries. Every day, I felt a little lighter, a little freer, and a lot more empowered. Most importantly, I had reclaimed my identity, not just as a mother, but as a woman who refused to be diminished by deceit. The past remained a memory, but it no longer dictated my choices or my happiness. I smiled at Noah, watching him play safely, and felt an overwhelming sense of pride. We had survived the storm, and I knew without a doubt that the future belonged to us.